Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice, as we're in the thick of things here in bracket 1. And we have on my desk, we have Maynard, we have Tasteless, we have Rotterdam, and we're going to be updating you with a few of the games that are currently going on, as well as what is to come. So I believe there is still Ryung versus TY, which is a qualifying match going on, Maynard. Give us a little breakdown of what's been going so far in game number 2.
Yeah, this one's a big deal. Obviously, TY is currently 1-up in the series. TY is going for mech, and Ryung is going for bio and tank, so it's a clash of styles here. TY has really locked things down. He doesn't really look breakable right now. You see a lot of Hellbats, a lot of tanks. They're nicely upgraded. They're about to hit into +2. He's getting servos. Ryung's been trying to find an opening, but these Sensor Towers have been really tough for Ryung. TY going for a Hellbat dunk here. Like, he's been very, very annoying. In fact, like, we missed it because we came at, missed the first chunk of this game, but TY did a lot of harassment damage with a proxy starport out on the map with some Liberator and also Hellion run-bys into the mineral line of Ryung. So it's kind of been on the back foot economically for a lot of this game. And TY is TY, so he's not afraid of late game mech.
Right, fair play. That'll go on for a little while longer, I think, here. Even though that scan's gone down and spotted that army, looking like TY is going to try and keep pursuing. And we can stay on this for a bit longer to see if the fight
Take it away, James.
No.
Kalaris.
Nothing's happening, look. Yeah. It's fine. Calm down.
You're quite right, Kalaris. Good analysis. It's good to see that you watch a bit of Starcraft.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, well, we can check in maybe later on with this series, as of course it is very important. Thank you very much, Maynard. Here at the desk, though, we're going to be starting to talk about another qualifying match, a big qualifying match, in fact, from two players that are from a far-off, small country, almost through the esports Narnia door that we call South Korea.
The esports Narnia door.
Yes,
I'm
right.
stealing that. That is good.
That's yours now, Tasteless.
Consider it stolen. That's great. This match coming up is going to be huge. Maru right now is like the Terran hope. He's the guy who's still making it work with Terran, especially in the GSL. He's the last remaining Terran player. Stats is a guy who's got a lot of history here at the Intel Extreme Masters. The last time we were all gathered here together, he was showing an epic finals against TY, and of course he wants to try to get to that finals again here and win this, but Maru is a very serious threat.
It definitely does, and actually I just got word that our game is already ready, so not dissimilar to how Todd was intrinsic to our previous desk, Rotterdam was intrinsic to this one.
One of my better segments.
Absolutely, thank you very much. Time to head over to the commentary team. Qualifying match, one of these players will make it to the group stage.
All right, thank you guys. This is an epic match, Pig.
Oh, yeah.
These guys are both in the round of 8 of GSL Code S right now, right? I mean, his stats, he got second place at Katowice last year. Maru, he's kind of the Terran hope at the moment. He's like the one Terran that's still winning games.
He's actually somehow, he's been squeezing his way through, despite the naysayers. There are a few people out there hoping for some balance changes, hoping Maru would drop, but no, he's holding up the Terran flag right now. He's playing really well, and as we've been pointing out, he doesn't really seem to break a sweat or let the pressure show ever. No. Like, he never seems to show any emotional response to the games going on.
At the same time, Stats stays pretty calm, cool, and collected. This guy is definitely a strong Protoss foe to go up against, just kind of dominating in Korea last year as far as the WCS points goes, finishing first place and all that. Multiple tournaments he was getting to the finals or winning. So looking really strong last year, but to be honest, Pig, this year, he seems more human. He seems more flawed, a little bit weaker than before.
I mean, it's a bit of an adjustment, of course, with the Protoss race especially having the biggest changes with their whole early game dynamic changing, with that mothership core, of course, being removed, some of the unit statistics changing around to compensate for that. And I got to agree with you. I feel like Stats definitely, he's been squeezing his way through those GSL groups, but there's been a few close matches, and I think this is going to be a good opportunity for him to prove himself. He is, of course, going to be spawning down here in the bottom right-hand side of Catalyst in the blue, representing Splice. It is Stats.
And, of course, the Terran hope, as we say, it's Maru.
He's never got both hands on the keyboard and mouse when that camera goes to him. He's always there. I mean, this is funny. It's the same. I feel like every time I watch Maru playing a televised match, the moment the camera goes to him, it's like he has this intuition, and he's always got his water bottle in his hand, or he's scratching his face, and he's just kind of nonchalantly sitting there.
Show off.
Yeah. He's got those young hands. He's been training, in team houses since he was about 13 years old. He's one of these young prodigy types, and I think he has such a history and a lot of fans out there because he is so aggressive and so kind of tactics focused with his maneuvers.
You're certainly right about this. And I mean, this is part of the reason why he can win no matter what the game is like at the moment. Even though some people might have a hard time with some of the switches and start going into more negative win rates in certain matchups, Maru makes his own luck. He makes his own balance to the game with the way that he's always attacking. But with that being said, Maru's style, to be honest, I feel like doesn't match up against Stats that well.
I mean, Stats, Mr. Consistency, he's very strong defensively, right? He's one of these guys where he can kind of shut down those drops in multiple angles. So, you know, if you've got the multi-prong aggression, of course, we saw Maru pick Drogo apart, especially in that game number 2. He just keeps positioning and repositioning and eventually finds an opening. But, I mean, Stats made his name back in 2016, where he wasn't quite winning many tournaments, but he was always top 4 because he would just shut down aggression and be one of the strongest Protoss players in the late game.
It's very true, and it's because he kind of just gets to the late game. Like, if you want to kill Stats, I feel like you have to do a big attack. Just a massive attack, whether it's with a lot of Liberators or maybe just some sort of all-in, you know, one of these 5 racks plays that we see Maru come out with occasionally. But if he goes into just dropping all over the place, trying to out-multitask Stats, that's something you're not going to do too often.
Interesting. We do see a Twilight Council first out of Stats. In the recent meta, pretty much always it's Robo or Stargate first, but going to be going either for a fast blink or potentially, you know, DT, something like that. And Maru opening up with, of course, Reacted Factory. What we're seeing so much, and we've seen a lot of people just dying to a couple of Cyclones and Hellions. Like, I wouldn't think Stats is the guy that would, but opening Twilight first especially, it doesn't give you anything to help you defend immediately. You don't have a Phoenix to pick up a Cyclone. You don't have an Immortal. It's all going to be about just shield batteries and Stalker micro.
You're quite right about that. Well, at least he's not going to be sitting here with Adepts trying to clear it out like we saw Deer do in GSL. That's going to be even a little bit harder, even though, you know, obviously Cyclones can kill off Stalkers, especially when Blink's not ready. But let's see what Stats can do here. Again, you were talking about the shield battery. We don't see one yet. That's going to make this a hard hold.
Thankfully, for Stats' sake, there is non-stop Stalker production, but remember, this gateway is exposed. If that pylon goes down and that gets depowered, that's it, it's lights out. There are 3 Stalkers out, a 4th one is on the way. The first Stalker already losing its shields. He's going to have to back up here, and he wants to get a little bit of damage done on those Cyclones before they get up close and personal.
Oh, there are some SCVs coming to repair, so that makes it a lot harder. Oh my god, Stats almost picking up that first one. Good micro by Maru, pulling it back. Stats loses a Stalker here, but continues to push forward.
Yeah, Maru has to get out of there. But he's got 2 Hellions coming as well. He's going to use the high ground advantage. Stats being very ambitious. Those Hellions rotating. They're looking for the flank. They want to get in that mineral line. The Stalkers are back, but the Hellions are going to slip past. One of them will get through. Good pro pull. Very nice surround.
Well, this is Stats for you, isn't it? His defensive play, second to none with the Protoss race, blocking absolutely everything. And the perfect follow-up. Double Forge, his Robo on the way. No doubt a 3rd Nexus is going to be coming also.
Yeah, I mean, you give him an inch and he will run away with it. This is Stats in a nutshell. A lot of players look for counter-aggression after they win a fight. Stats almost always looks for how can I solidify myself a few minutes down the track. And double upgrades, a Robotics now going out towards that 3rd base. This is a very good follow-up for Stats. Just going to look to edge his way forwards and get up into that big 3-base position. I'd assume probably just a big gateway composition, blink, charge lot. Maybe go to Storm later, but I mean, with the double upgrades, it's probably going to be a really strong 1-1 or 2-2 timing that he could hit.
Well, I tell you what, with Stats, I kind of doubt he'll hit a timing. I think what we're going to see from Stats is he's going to defend, he's going to have a lot of units. We might see a Prism come out, right? He has Blink, he can try to do a little bit, but with the current metagame the way it is, with the way Maru plays, if Stats sits back and gets into 2-2, the game will likely be over at that point.
Yeah.
That is a lot of the times the death blow to Terran.
Of course, we've seen Maru rely on that aggression. He wants to get under the skin of the Protoss player usually, and we do see here, of course, the 3 barracks producing pretty much non-stop. All the upgrades starting to kind of line up with combat shields, +1 weapons, medevac production now starting 2 at a time. The Marine spots the Nexus and the Sentry, so valuable information. Maru knows, okay, Stats is going up to that economy stage. I'm going to need to get something done because I've delayed my 3rd command center a long time. And with only single eBay, no third CC, this is a situation where Terran says, I've got to get some damage. I've got to slow the Protoss player down.
Yeah, he's going very heavily into Marauders here, but Stats is kind of ready for that. He's already made an Immortal, and that's a pretty early Immortal overall, a very defensive play, but one that is going to pay off here for Stats. Also, his 1-1 is going to be finishing just as this attack gets here, so I mean, Stats has done a good job getting the tools that he needs, and I don't think he's going to lose his third base here.
Yeah, Stalker's going to go forward. They go to pick off that Cyclone and blink on out of there. And here come a couple of very nice force fields. 3 Marauders getting trapped. That's a huge pickoff.
Well, Stats is really getting ahead. Watch this. He's going to start 2-2 here. He's getting another Immortal. His charge is finishing up so he can start his Zealot production. And, I mean, I look at this situation. This is what Stats wants. This is how he wants to play. And all the aggression that Maru's put on has fallen on deaf ears. He hasn't been able to do a single thing.
Yeah, this is that point where every time Protoss feels a little bit more comfortable, there we go, 2 queues up, a second Immortal on the way. These observers, of course, in that surveillance mode, getting massive vision everywhere. And these Stalkers always able to force out the stims. They're picking away at the units for free. Finally, Maru going to get a tiny bit of damage. We'll actually get the Twilight Council. That's nice. 2-2 already started and charge finished, so no immediate impact, but it will at least stop Storm from coming down. No Templar Archives or DT Shrine going to be available just yet.
Well, Maru right now, okay, he's getting an armory in a second engineering bay, so at least he can continue his upgrades a little bit later, but look at this, the warping in the main base, dropping out the 4 Zealots. This could end up being a lot of damage.
Yeah, already 3 or 4 SCVs going down. The Widowmine shots are nice. They do take out a few Zealots. And it is going to be defended by Maru, but not before a bit of economic damage is done. And this is so good for Stats because it pulls the pressure away from him. Maru on the other side is scanning. He's thinking about counter-dropping, but actually, ooh, Widowmine's looking for the damage on the probes there.
All right, he kills a few probes and a big drop into the main base. There you go. Maru with his multitasking, getting that aggression on, but Stats with the recall, bringing forward all his Stalkers, a blink for it, taking down these medevacs, just crushing everything.
Wow, absolutely shut down. Stats doesn't take any hits at all that game. It felt like he was ready for everything right from the very first Cyclone pressure. Stats was on top of that one.
Well, you know, this is the story of Stats. This is what he wants to play against. He wants you to attack him and attack him and attack him and attack him. And that's exactly what Maru did. He played into the style of Stats. Stats is like a hard counter to aggressive Terrans. I feel like Maru needs to back it up, play some macro games, get a giant attack, and try to kill Stats with numbers.
A tough opening game there for Maru. Is down 1, of course. This is a best of 3 here. And we, of course, will be right back with game number 2. We're just going to head over to the analysis desk.
That's right, thank you very much indeed. We have one, I think, update to go to here whilst that series continues on for a qualifying match. And Rotterdam, you were in Petit Drogo going up against Probe, and it seemed a bit familiar to you, I think.
Yeah, it's really weird. We can go ahead and hop into game number 2 that's currently going on Blackpink. And guess what? We've got 2 Oracles flying in, killing a lot of probes. The first Oracle, it was a Proxy Stargate. And we saw that earlier today. Proxy Stargate, first Oracle killed 7 workers, which is why Drogo is in a very sweet economic spot, even though he's going to end up losing at least 1 Oracle here. But it's really bizarre, James, because game number 1 between these two was on Blackpink, with Probe spawning in the left bottom side, just like he did earlier versus Krö, and just like he did against Krö, he opened up Phoenix, and just like he did against Krö, he died against the first big Archon Zealot Prism push. I'm watching it. The exact same series. Game number 1 on Blackpink was the exact same. Game number 2, again he gets Proxy Stargated, and again the Oracle does so much damage. This is really bizarre. I'm watching the exact same series as we saw earlier today, and that one Probe lost 0-2, and I'm afraid that he's going to lose this one 0-2 as well.
So you're thinking Petit Drogo in a very good spot at the moment?
Yeah, very, very dominating position. He's been dominating the pace of this game. He did so much economic damage. 20 probes have gone down. I mean, it's hard to win a PvP when you lose 20 probes.
20 probes down for Probe. That's a difficult time ahead of him, unfortunately. Maynard obviously being from the ANZ region. Probe having a bit of a tough one here.
Whenever there's a Probe game on, I'm like, oh, who's got Probe? Who's got Probe? How's it going? Because I'm interested in my little brother from down under.
That's
right. He is in a rough spot here. It's obviously an elimination match for him. He did well against Mamba, but Drogo is too damn good. It's tough for him to come back here, like Roddy said. Yeah. I've seen comebacks happen before. It's going to take a bit of a miracle, but Yeah, I'm rooting for him, of course.
Great. All right, well, I think we're ready to go back into our next game, game number 2 here. Thank you, Tasteless, as well.
No problem.
For being here. There's always one. There's always one.
This is going great.
Let's head
Yeah.
to game number 2 now of our qualifying match.
Man, I always love that insight from Tasteless, let me tell you.
He really brings the knowledge bombs. I mean, without him, I feel like we just wouldn't have as much of an in-depth analysis. But thankfully, he is there dropping those on the desk, and we are keeping those updates going of those series. Maru here, feel like he does look a little bit annoyed at that last game, actually, with his posture there.
Yeah, I mean, you are right. But again, stylistically, it's a hard matchup for Maru. He has to play outside of his own comfort zone if he's going to take down this just behemoth of defense in stats.
And that's really frustrating as well, because he isn't a guy who's just going to sit back. He's a guy who's going to push those economic leads. He is already up 1 game in this series, representing Splice. Down here in the bottom left, it is Stats.
And of course, his opponent losing that first game, it's Maru. Of course, from Jin Air Green Wings, they've been doing really well recently.
Oh, yeah.
He and SOS kind of leading the charge for the team.
That's the dream when you get your own picture painted on an airplane, SOS style. I don't know if Maru has one yet.
Well, he's going to have to win this tournament if he wants one.
Yeah.
He wants his face on an airplane, man. And don't forget, if he loses here, he's not necessarily out. There's one more spot left in the group, and I would say the loser of this match is probably favored. I mean, Ryung is still down there. There's some other very good players. Sol has been playing well. You know, definitely some other guys to contend with, but you know, these two are just monsters.
Absolutely, and it is going to be, of course, a hard-fought match here. I really think the pressure, it comes back to the fact that Stats isn't just going to play ultra safe. Like, when you look at someone who's such a good defensive player as Stats, the thing is, if you don't touch them, they are looking to get ahead. They are looking to get edges. The Twilight Council opening into such a fast blink. You know, this is something which frustrates Terran players no end, because even though it doesn't give them a lot of defensive power, you see him just say, nope, I've got perfect Stalker control. I'm going to defend your pressure. But if you don't harass them, if you don't do something, it's like the Protoss just gets absolute map control for right up until Stim and Medivacs are done, basically.
Yeah, and that becomes quite hard, especially, you know, Maru wants to be out there. He wants to kind of keep the Protoss in the dark, because like we saw, even there at the end when he lost, what was he doing? He was hitting multiple locations. Stats didn't even see either of those attacks coming. Widowmines got down his third, a big drop hit his main. Stats had too much, of course, and won, but that's the way that Maru likes to do it.
He's a master of pulling his opponents apart. Player who's relied on drops throughout his career to great success. Of course, Reaper is going to be the opening here for Maru. Unfortunately for him, Stats has actually walled off the jumping ledge with a single pylon. It always looks like you can get up there, but just you actually can't, even though it looks like you can. So Maru can only poke the front, and with the Stalker popping out as it arrives, this basically says, hey, if you want to scout, that's a one-way trip. And Maru wants to keep the Reaper alive. Gonna bounce the Stalker away, give himself a bit of room to retreat there.
Well, he sees that there's a Stalker on the way. You know, he could be thinking about what happened in the last game, but I don't know if it's the same thing, because I'm looking at that probe up there. That looks like a Dark Templar.
That's exactly what it looks like, isn't it?
That's where you would put a Dark Shrine. The Reaper, that would be pretty far outside of the Reaper's way to scout.
Yeah, he hasn't put a pylon down yet, so, you know, it could just be that he sent the probe home a bit late and knew it would be overtaken by the Reaper, so he says, look, I'll just hide you in the corner, wait till the Reaper's gone and send it home a little bit later. But interestingly enough, on Maru's side of the map, we have a big diversion from last game. He's opening up with an exceptionally fast third command center, and he's going to rely on these 2 Hellions and this Reaper to try and keep Stats back, threatening the run by, and actually maybe going to be able to hunt down this Stalker.
Yeah, he definitely could here, especially with that Reaper and the grenade in the pocket. So we'll pick off this first Stalker. Very nice play. Great micro from Maru as well, getting out alive with everything. And I gotta say, Pig, just looking at the way Maru's playing here, I think that these are like perfect fixes to how he played in the last game.
Yeah.
Like he's going for a heavy economy here, and that's going to be much better against Stats, I think.
Especially after the Stalker goes down. If we take a look at Stats' vision, he just doesn't see anything. You don't get an Observer, you don't get an Oracle. This is one of the things you sacrifice with this opening. He's building a blind shield battery because he has no idea what's going on. He is trying to send a probe into Scout, but I'm pretty sure that's going to get blocked. So Stats here, it's going to be maybe about a minute from now when he moves across the map with 6 or 7 Blink Stalkers. That's when he's going to get information. Up until then, he is completely blind, and he just has to play generic and straightforward, which means Maru will get ahead in the economy.
And Maru knows this as well. This is why Stats is so strong, is because he'll be in this position and say, okay, I'm going to play a little bit safe here. You know, I'm not going to just walk out of my base and risk losing units or risk a counterattack. He does wait for that nice number of Stalkers, but the Hellions getting ready to run in.
They just left the base. The Warpin is going to come in here quickly, but he could lose a lot of probes in that time. Already 3 falling. Those Hellions looking very healthy. Maru actually not focus firing for a second there, but still going to get quite a bit of damage. 6, 7 probes will fall. Very nice start to things for Maru.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. These Stalkers not really going to get as much done as he wants. He had to warp in some Stalkers at home to deal with that. You know, maybe if he had 3 more with that army right now, he could have done an offensive blink or something, but as is, he's just expanding.
And if that bunker finishes with a siege tank behind it, the thing is there's no high ground vision. It's all just Stalkers. There's no Observer. You don't have a Mothership Core anymore. There's nothing to spot up there. So every time Stats pokes, he has to commit his hit points. He's going to take a Siege Tank shot. He's going to take a volley of Marauder and Marine hits. So I really think Stats just can't do anything for the next minute or so. He needs to kind of just sit out here, try to macro up. But what's he missing? I mean, there's no upgrades this game. Forge hasn't even started. Meanwhile, Maru is setting up infrastructure like crazy. He's got his +1 on the way, Stim and combat shields, and he is adding on all of the barracks. So he's going to go right on up to that 2-base, 5 barracks production. And that's where he's just going to outnumber Stats in the mid-game.
And you know what? When he gets that really strong ball of units, he has his Medivacs out, his Stim done, his combat shield's going to be finishing up as well. That's when he can actually land that 3rd command center and really get his production flowing. And his Stats here, I mean, I like the Warp Prism. He's going to try to mix it up, keep Maru in his base a bit longer, see if he can get a bit of damage. But I don't foresee him actually being very successful with this.
You know, I think Stats, because his information is so limited, remember, all he saw was a Siege Tank and some Bio at the front. He's probably thinking about 2-base Siege Tank pushes. Only now does he actually see the 3rd command center for the first time. And notice up to this point, he's gone up to like 8 or 10 gateways. He's making charge lots and Immortals. I think he was looking to intercept a big push. Now seeing the 3rd command center, he says, well, my upgrades are so late. I've got to do something with this production. So I think he's going to go for some sort of attack here. And he really needs to find some damage.
Well, he's got a Warp Prism full of Zealots, and Charge is just about to finish. Looks like he's warping in some additional Zealots somewhere here on the map. Maybe at home, gonna just send those out at the moment. Bringing up his sentries as well. This is a kind of desperate move. Like you were talking about, Pig, he doesn't have upgrades, so this needs to do damage.
Yeah, I mean, it is, of course, hard to deal with these charge lots in the back. That Warp Prism survives the turret, and 7 Zealots warping in, army posturing at the front at the same time. Maru, this time, a little bit quicker with the SCV pool than the first game, but he's about to get hammered at the front at the same time.
All right, those Zealots charging forward right now, doing what they can, but there is +1 on this spot. He has the Medivac, he has the Siege Tank. Great force field. Wow, the Immortal getting a ton of damage done there.
Traps so many of Maru's units back, but the main base has been cleaned up. Maru can bring those reinforcements back down. Stats knows he needs to do more damage right now, but it's fizzled out. He doesn't have any more charge lots here. The Warp Prism is gone, and without a frontal reinforcement point, Stats is forced to retreat.
Oh man, he doesn't have anything going on right now. This is a very dire situation. Like he killed some units, he killed some SCVs. He's doing his best and still making charge lots, but if Maru just kind of plays this carefully and continues to macro, this is a big hill for Stats to climb back from.
Yeah, I mean, when you're down in upgrades, it's always very nasty. He doesn't have any tech units. He's just got a few force fields and that one Immortal. He is going to actually have a nice little turnaround here. Maru getting slightly over-eager, but once the charge lots are gone, the Stalkers are so fragile. Force fields coming down, doing well, but Maru's Medivacs still just healing everything up. He's still pumping out of those 5 barracks, and with the Widow Mine starting to grow in count, these charge lots days are numbered. Once the Bio Ball hits a certain size with a certain amount of Widow Mines, charge lots aren't going to be that useful.
Well, right now he's warping in a lot of sentries, a lot of Stalkers. He wants to utilize his micro here to try to get something done. The Prism going up towards the main base. Oh god, the turrets aren't quite ready yet. He's gonna get this warping done.
That is going to find an opening. Widow Mine, some Bio coming back here. Some nice hits are going to be able to slowly clean this up. Stats, though, looking a little bit desperate. He's going to push the front at the same time. That is a lot of Marauders, Artosis. Maru has to, he can chase that down. Stats has to get out of there, man. He is dancing with the devil right now. He is playing a very risky game. And, I mean, he's just desperate. He's got to do something more, and he is finding a few edges.
Yeah, these force fields are pretty nice. He's doing some strong attacks. He's trying to divert the army up into the main base here. Oh, God, even the Prism taking a Widowmine shot, but for all this time he's buying, his army is just not as good as Maru's, and it's not going to be as good anytime soon.
He's gone up to 8 sentries now, but they're all so low on energy, he can't even really afford a Guardian Shield right now. Zealot's going to redrop in the main. He's trying to find an opening, but Maru, he has just not missed a beat with his production. There's always just barely enough units to chase this off, and whilst he picks off an SCV here or there, back at home his economy is just smaller. Finally, Maru finds the opening in the force fields. He's just going to jump on top of that army. The Stalkers and Sentries starting to fall, the Immortals gone, and as these charge lots wash up against the Marauders, looks like Maru is going to tie up the series.
That is it. GG is called, and that was just fantastic from Maru. He switched up his strategy, switched up his playstyle. That fast 3 command center is a great move against someone like Stats, who is going to play defensively in that early game.
Yeah, I mean, I think Stats was expecting something similar out of Maru. He says, look, this is Maru. He's going to do some big 2-base aggression, at least 3 barracks kind of medevac, looking for openings, because that's what Maru normally does every single game. But, you know, that was a good comeback there from the Terran. We are going to hop into game 3 very shortly, guys. We'll be right back after this segment, the analysis desk.
That's right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We have a few updates to bring to you, of course. One was that Stefano was definitely eliminated, so we want to kind of update you with that. And 2, TY was able to qualify for the round of 24 as we continue things here at the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. In fact, Maynard, you caught some of the last moments of that series, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. So TY managing to edge him out there. It was Mech versus Bio, as I mentioned, if you guys didn't catch it on the break. TY went for something pretty cool at the end there. He was just pushing with a regular mech push, lots of tanks, lots of Hellbats, but he was also Hellbat dunking. Right. So generally, medevacs don't play a part in mech TVT at the moment in the current meta. So it's really, really cool to see him bust out something from Heart of the Swarm. You know, just dumping those blue flame Hellbats into SCV lines and doing tons of economic damage. And you know, that's not very common for mech play. So I loved it.
And you do actually have DNS versus Bly going on right now. It's game number 3, if I believe.
That is true. Yeah, it's tied up 1 apiece. It's looking like, you know, the game's not going to end for any time soon. You know, Bly's going Lingbane, Hydra, Ho-Hum. Lots of Zergs have done this against Protosses before. And it's just, you know, the counter. He's going for Storm, charge a lot of Archon over here. Neither player's really done a ton of damage. Bly's been trying really hard to sort of, you know, get Lings into this spot here. DNS has been very on point with his defense, always having that natural lockdown. Bly hasn't been finding those openings for his Zerg units, and he's trying to go for a sneaky Spire here as well, which could be pretty cool, but DNS sees that with that Phoenix.
Not so sneaky.
Not so sneaky anymore. Hey, mate.
Very quickly spotted. Well done, Rotterdam Phoenix. All is good in the world. And then, well... Okay,
mine wouldn't die.
No, indeed. I was about to mention. Thank you very much, Maynard, for giving us that recap.
My pleasure, mate.
Tasteless, I think that Kerr versus Soul is going on in your game right now. What was happening there?
That's right, yeah. If we want to jump in game, I could show you guys. It's been a pretty back and forth PvT up until now. We've had a lot of pushes coming out here from Soul. It should be noted Soul was the player who actually took out Stefano, by the way. But yeah, right now we're just seeing what looks to be the 4th base, an attempted denial. We'll see if these storms get off here. No.
Killed it.
He actually takes it out. So I got to say, Soul's looking very good. It's not clear this game's over, but I did get to spec Soul briefly when he took Stefano out, and it was an impressive series.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm being pushed now. Once again, Rotterdam, great segment. We are going over to game number 3 as we find out who is going to qualify for the round of 24.
All right, thanks, guys. Game number 3, Maru versus Stats. Who takes a pig?
Putting me on the spot here, Dan.
I'm putting you on the spot.
I feel like Stats, honestly, is the one who I feel like is going to be more comfortable in this game number 3. The thing that worries me is that he might just play the same opening. And I feel like he should probably mix it up a little bit. You know, maybe he just says, nah, look, I'm going to play the same. But I feel like the problem there, we saw it. With that opening, you open Twilight, you don't necessarily have scouting.
Yeah.
And if you're playing blind, Maru's shown he can change it up. He's got a good range on him. He's not playing predictably. So I think as Stats, whether it's an Observer opening or a Stargate, you've got to get a bit more information.
Okay, well, we'll see how that goes. Stats in the bottom right.
Facing off against the Jin Air Green Wings representative up here in the top left-hand side of Neon Violet Square. It is Maru.
I'm interested, Pagan, your thoughts about Neon Violet Square and TVP.
This is an interesting map. I mean, it's always weird to have one which is, of course, forced into the sort of more economic stage a lot of the time with the easier to take expansions. But, I mean, really, especially for Terran, you don't really want that back expansion. In this matchup, gas is not that important for you. It's all about minerals. So only having a 4 mineral patch expansion in the back, not as good. So the Terran player, I feel, doesn't really benefit from the free expansion in the back. So, you know, I would kind of tend towards saying it's a bit more Protoss favored, but you've got to pay attention to the main base as a doom drop area where just big drops can come in. Liberator siege ups always find good angles on this map. So definitely Maru might find something with those drop angles, but it's going to be something that Stats is so prepared for.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to see observers watching everything that's going on. He's always going to have stalkers in position. Whether or not Maru gets a chance to take advantage of that is something we'll have to wait and see.
Well, that looks like very standard openings from both sides as of right now. You know, it's definitely a map where we see a bit of cheese from Protoss from time to time. You'll see like a proxy Stargate or something like that, but it doesn't look like that's going to be where Stats goes, especially with this Reaper expand coming out of Maru.
That probe, of course, was trying to be annoying, did try to delay the command center, but Maru was on top of that. You know, the one thing we need to see more from pro gamers, I feel like we need to see a little bit more spray paint on the ground. That's not banned, right? Like, that's not like skins or anything.
There's no way that's banned.
Yeah.
Of course you can spray paint.
Yeah.
They are missing that style, aren't they?
Yeah, they really need to bring it out. You know, Huck could be drawing love hearts back in the day with his pro patrol paths and stuff. Nowadays, we've got cool spray paint you can spam on the ground, and players aren't even using it. So pro players out there, get on it. We want to see a little bit more bling bling.
I feel like there would be a meta for spray paint as well. Like, you send your probe, let's say, like, over to some somewhat obscure place that the Reaper will go near, and you spray paint, right? And then the Reaper's like, a probe was over here, and then it has to search for a proxy that you didn't put down. Done and done.
The next level mind game. Speaking of that, this probe comes up. It does actually spot that extra barracks going down, and this is a fast third command center once again. That second barracks timing and no factory there, I think, already might be a bit of a tell. I mean, either way, Stats is changing it up, dude. He's already got an Adept coming out. He's gone Stargate this time around. I love to see this change up. He's going to have all the information this time around.
And I think a Stargate opening in a situation like this is fantastic. You get 2-3 Oracles, and you can just take your third Nexus immediately. Like, you, off of 1 or 2 units, this is very simple against a build like what he's up against.
Ooh, looks like this Reaper going on a one-way trip. Would love to spot the Stargate, but doesn't go in the right direction and does not see that. So, of course, the Oracle might be able to find its way into an undefended mineral line if it is lucky. Those Marines are out, but they're not quite defending the minerals because they're not sure what the follow-up is just yet.
Well, I think Maru has a good idea. When you see the Adepts early on, that points towards the Oracle a bit more since it is so gas-heavy. Stats of previous 2 games going Stalkers, so a decent amount of information, and Maru's pretty much ready as this comes in.
Turret finishes right on time. 1 SCV does go down, and of course the Oracle now takes 3 shots to take down Workers and Marines, so it's only going to get 2 SCVs. Still not a bad start to things. The Oracle takes 0 damage. It's still going to be alive. It's going to be able to wander around and scout everything that goes on. And behind that, the other Oracle going to meet up, add a bit of power to that harassment.
Yeah, and this is cool. I love to watch these 2 builds actually meet up against each other. You notice the Stats adding all of his tech behind that third Nexus, knowing that there's really no way for Maru to leave his base as long as he doesn't lose these Oracles.
Oh, this Oracle with only a little bit of energy, but Stats actually says that's enough. I can come in there with the other one and, overstays. Big mistake there. Of course, Oracle's a bit of an interesting unit with the way they micro. If you ever actually let them stop moving completely, they lose their acceleration. They take a very long time to start moving. So there's a trick to it where normally you'll see pro players move and shoot very quickly, so the Oracle kind of slides around and never fully comes to a halt. But Stats accidentally, he was too focused on pulling back the other Oracle. He let it come to a standstill, so even then, giving it the retreat command, it just took forever to get going, and the Marines were able to focus it down.
Indeed, and okay, this is actually something that I wanted to bring up before. I love what we're seeing here from Stats, the Colossus tech coming out immediately. Like you said, this map might be a little bit better for Protoss because Terran relies so heavily on minerals in this matchup. But when you take this quick back third as Protoss, the current Protoss meta is very charge lot heavy.
Yeah.
But this doesn't, that's a mineral heavy unit, right? But if you go for an older style, like into Colossus tech, in an easily defensible 3-base position like this, with those less mineral patches but having the extra gas, Colossus play is fantastic.
Yeah, these Colossus with the Blink Stalkers backing them up will be very nice. And you can even add Storm on a little bit later. What I find very interesting when both players go for these third bases is who goes for the faster fourth. And that's really an information game. That's why we see Maru constantly sending these Marines out, because he wants to spot, hey, Stats, you rushing the fourth base. Because if you let your opponent get the fourth, suddenly they unlock so many more mineral patches. They can go up to like 80 workers. But if you're just on this back third, you see both players in the mid to high 50s on workers. This isn't as strong as your normal 3-base economy. So there's actually a lot of differences in how they're going to play based on who rushes out that fourth base. And for now, looks like both players respecting each other, and the fourth Nexus going down for Stats.
I do love the to and fro that you described, though. Like with Maru going to check it, Stats knows he's going to check it. So his Adepts are there. Hey, you don't have any idea when I'm taking it, Stats says. So nice counterplay right there. But he has his Colossus coming out. His Blink is going to be finishing up. And this is going to be a pretty unbreakable position. And I feel like if Maru is playing this right, when he figures out exactly what's going on, he just kind of needs to expand. He needs to make sure that his armory is on time for his additional upgrades as well.
Love the observers there, pointing out that it is almost pure Marine for Maru this time around. And that's the last thing you want against these Colossi. Of course, for some viewers who might not have been watching too much in recent months, Colossi now doing massive damage to light units, so they actually aren't as effective against the Marauders, but they are much more effective against the Marines. So something to keep an eye out for in the engagements is if those Colossi are able to kind of contact their lasers with a tight clump of Marines, they'll disappear very, very quickly.
You'll notice during battles that the Colossus will start shooting, and then the Protoss Pro will normally retarget it on Marine clumps. And also, you notice that there's a slightly different unit comp. A lot of the times is you'll see like 3 Colossus, then oftentimes into a few Immortals just to kind of shore up against those Marauders that just don't seem to die against Colossus.
This is interesting. Stats going for a very fast fleet beacon here. And there's a fusion core already on the way from Maru. So I think both players are saying, look, it's the macro map. I know you're building up to your super late game tech, the Ranged Liberators. I'm going to get that Tempest tech open, or maybe even Carriers, but I think it would probably be Tempests to
I would be so surprised if he went Carrier. That would be super cool to watch. But, you know, this isn't SOS, okay? This is Stats. I think he's going for the Tempest play. And it is a great counter at this point. With the type of army that he's been building, really, that's the only thing he has to be afraid of at the moment. And from there, you know, what do we have left to fill out? Like, we can get some Psy Storm for Stats, add in some of those Immortals, you know, make sure he has his upgrades going. And then as far as Maru goes, well, Ghost is about it. That's all that's really left.
Maru's desperate to get both information and pressure at this stage. We've got these double drops on the north and the south, both posturing, looking for a bit of an angle. Maru's got to be very careful, though, because there are Blink Stalkers out. Good pickup. But at the same time, these units in the south trying to pressure. Maru wants to get some information, but he also wants to push Stats back so that when this range finishes, he can push in with the Liberators, get immediately on top of Stats' economy, and force a favorable engagement. He doesn't want to give Stats the time to pick away at him from afar with Tempests or anything like that.
Look at that beautiful Widowmine burrowing here. Oh my god, just great hits, really hurting the Zealots and getting a ton of probes here. Maru's drop doing a huge amount of damage, and with this defensive Liberator play, we're not going to see anything out of Stats
You gotta recall Stats. You're not actually getting anything done there. Okay, it looks like his reinforcements just barely able to clean up these units on the third, but not before 16 probes have gone down. And of course, with Mules dropping out of 3 command centers, that does give Maru an economic lead. And this is a crucial moment because Stats was about to get to the point where he said, hey, I'm adding disruptors, I'm adding 3-3, I'm going to be maxing out soon. Now he's got to spend money replacing those probes. His economy is going to take a dip. And this gives Maru a much bigger window to kind of get into this late game army and compete on Stats level. I really feel like Stats was about to run away with the late game army, but now Maru has a bit more time.
Yeah, and he's getting all the right units here. I love the Mass Liberator. Even if you're playing against some Tempests, you can move very quickly with these. Stats is going to need to make sure that he is zoning out a Liberator push. You don't want the Liberators to get near your base and siege up. You'd much rather make them siege a few times on the way back, pick them off, kite a little bit there with your Tempest. So let's see if Stats kind of regroups here and moves out.
I like that analysis there, Dan. You know, the Disruptor's a cool addition for that style as well. If you've got a Terran trying to leapfrog his siege units forwards, having something like the Disruptor that can throw a very long-ranged explosive splash damage will keep back the ground army. That allows your Tempest to just pick away at those Liberators and siege them down. And very nice play here from both players, but really just a massive amount of respect. I'm surprised even Maru hasn't really pushed across with his main army. He's going for 3-3. He's going for +2 ship weapons. Vikings are on the way. Neither player wanting to just throw this game away with a, with a hasty attack. Both players want to play the late game.
It's both of these armies are like super good defensively, but not so good attacking. Like Stats' army is so scary, but you can't just run up and attack your opponent with it. This is the type of army that you win a very long, protracted battle with, right? Like you're constantly kiting, you're constantly repositioning, picking off their valuable units. And Maru, on the other hand here, like he can try to push in, but when those Tempests, look how many Tempests he has. He's going to be one-shotting the Liberators, and that's going to be value. Yeah,
that's massive, and that's such a large amount of army supply used up on that unit, which has relatively terrible damage output in terms of that. It's about its ability to pick away from it fast. So he's got to be very careful using these other units to support those Tempests. And Maru looks like he's had enough. He says, okay, let's push across. He's got 28 Marines. He's got a ton of Marauders, 9 Liberators, a couple Vikings in there as well. Is Storm finished? I don't think it is right now. No, it is not. So it is just going to be almost done. I mean, Storm adds a massive amount of damage output. If you can land that, it hits everything in the Terran army, both flying and ground units.
Now look at this. Carriers are being made. He's got double upgrades for his flying units. Like, I am loving this game. I'm getting nerd chills watching this game. These two refuse to attack each other. They're getting all the units. Oh my God, it's beautiful.
Yeah, this is really how to play Neon Violet as well. If it gets to this stage, you don't want to be the one forcing your way in. You want to look for small advantages. It's about these couple of zealots trying to pick off a command center. It's about trying to catch your opponent out of position. And the thing is, it becomes so tense at this point because you can't really split your army up without accepting a huge risk. If you split 20 or 30 army supply away and then you've got to take a frontal engagement, you're in massive trouble. That'll totally turn the scales. So these players are just picking away with very small sections of their units while trying to improve their compositions, replacing the Stalkers with carriers, adding on the shield upgrades. This is just going to be a real patience war, and I feel like whoever just gets a little bit overeager might end up throwing the game away.
You're so right. Like, no one can get overeager here. Like, Maru, it's so funny because I look at these armies and I think neither of these guys can really attack, but how is Maru going to, like, deal with this? He has a lot of Vikings, which can do all right, but as soon as they get hit by a Psy Storm, Stats will just destroy everything.
This is the sort of game where I start thinking, look, Maru, I mean, he's going triple Ghost Academy, he's adding Ravens, and yeah, nukes, start zoning out with nukes, but not just that, start building planetary fortresses everywhere. This is the sort of the game where I think the Terran needs to move away from that regular mid-game Terran mindset of, I'm going to push in with one big decisive push, or two-pronged assaults. It's more of, I'm going to pick away at you, because if I want to go to the ultimate units, Ravens, Ghosts, Range Liberators, your army becomes the least mobile unit in the late game of anyone's. Like, you need to just sit there and build turrets and planetary fortresses and be very strategic about your play. And this is not something we think of Maru as his strong point necessarily, but he's shown us some skill with this sort of composition in TVZ especially,
yeah. You're quite right. In fact, I think he's one of the best players with this comp in TVZ, even though it's not really his style. He's just that good. And by the way, okay, not only do we have 4 nukes making, DT Blink is on the way.
Oh, that's frustrating.
Do you even know the name of that? DT Blink, that's what
we're just going to call that DT Blink. So that's, all right. The world is watching, of course, the name of that upgrade.
Oh my God, this is too crazy. This is too crazy. I can't believe that we have this game going on like this right now. It's like carriers. We're going to see DTs with Blink walking around. It's Mascos. Look at this. 4 starports on the way. 4 starports on the way.
This is like that funny point where when you
better go BCs.
This is going to be so sick, man. Oh my gosh, that's so many starports. He's got building armor's going to come down. We're going to see every upgrade in this game, and you know, so much for the Marine Marauder stage. Let's replace them with Ghosts. Why not? Why not?
This is so exciting right now. He's adding tech labs onto all of his starports. So I mean, this could just be for Ravens, but I'm crossing my fingers to see a couple battle cruisers in there. Those aren't bad in the late game.
Oh my god, man.
Oh.
That was so close to landing. Would have got all those cannons and the Colossus, but does get denied for now. Stats showing that trademark defense, and I'm kind of hoping we see battle cruisers up against Tempest, because you end up with this really funny sort of recall versus Yamato dynamic.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it gets super weird if we get to that stage. So for now, no battle cruisers on the way, but insane upgrades for both players. Ship armor, the only one really missing here for Maru.
Yeah, and he might actually want to get that at some point, especially against carriers. Armor can be very powerful indeed. Harassing some with the Liberator, still trying to get some value out of his Marauders. And that's a lot of Vikings. But again, Storm, the great enemy of Vikings, so things could definitely go wrong in that way.
Oh yeah, this is part of why you don't want to be, you know, grouping your whole army on one key and kind of trying to force an engagement. It's why you sit back and you add planetaries and you add missile turrets, and this is what Maru's doing. He's adding Ravens as well. I mean, I think we all saw the clip of Zest on Reddit there, but oh, the D team Blink comes in, snipes the turret, and the scan just goes down and says, nah, mate.
That's pretty funny that he thinks that there's any possibility there would not be a scan available, but okay. I mean, they have the money. They can try it. You know, if Maru messes up, doesn't have that scan, maybe he gets a free base, but... Oh, geez, a lot of Ravens on the way right now.
I mean, it's going to be anti-armor missiles, right? It's got to be mass anti-armor missiles. And the funny thing is, it actually hits so quickly and it's so hard to dodge. The evolution it's not even about the armor. It's just about stacking so many 20 damage missiles on top of each other. If you can land like 20 at once, it just annihilates an entire army.
By the way, the Ghost looks hilarious running without his gun at the speed that it's at right now. That's like the sickest power walker. That's the Ghost that goes to the mall in the morning to walk. But look, you're definitely right about the missiles. But let's not forget that High Templars kind of counter everything in the late game, don't they?
Yeah, that's exactly
that could be an issue.
Feedback, Storm, very powerful against Ravens, and a lot of it will be a battle for vision. And we've seen time and time again that a patient Protoss player using Revelation on the Oracles usually wins the vision war in the late game.
Yes.
So, you know, it's going to be hard for him to find an angle in. Already these High Templar doing well. The Marine Marauder wants to get traded out here, and Maru doing probably the best he possibly can. Looks like he'll snipe a base, as well as trying to use a nuke here on the defensive to zone out this army. He realizes just how scary this carrier count is, because all of his bios on the other side of the map. And I mean, these units just aren't what he wants to fight carriers anyway. He needs a higher tier army. Cancels that nuke at the last second. Doesn't want to take out his own missile turrets. Yeah,
doesn't want to optimist himself there, but you know, he's careful about it. And Stats pulling back for the time being, recalling. Going to deal with the rest of these. Hey, he traded out this Marine Marauder pretty well.
Yeah, that was actually not bad. A lot of the time it does get very awkward when you get stuck with all those low tier units. I mean, 8 carriers are out now. You're going to need a lot of units to take that out. I mean, Vikings are so weird at this stage of the game, you know, because you've got to keep the High Templar away. Sometimes we see people spreading them across like 6 screens worth just to try to get them spread out enough to dodge the AoE. And I mean, that's the real challenge here for Maru. He needs to land sick EMPs and snipes. It's all about the Ghosts versus High Templar. If he can win that, he has a chance in the air war. What do you think? Do you think Liberators, does he have enough to take down the Interceptors, or will he just use them for anti-ground?
I think he'll use it for anti-ground for the most part, but the thing is there's only 2 Colossus left, as well as, well, the High Templars are very important to get back. The one thing I feel like is missing for Stats right now is additional Oracles, because at this point of the game, as long as you're tagging everything, as long as you're making sure that you have that additional vision, you should be able to win that zoning war, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, here he comes in. Mass anti-armor missiles. Almost all the carriers go down instantly. The Vikings and Ravens back off.
Oh my god, what did we even just see there?
6 carriers and like 1 or 2 Tempests just disappeared.
I wish I could have seen Stats' face when that happened, man. He would have a frown right there for sure.
This is so sick. Oh. Wow, Maru's got a massive SCV count, so you'll notice he keeps using these nukes defensively, but they're not like panic nukes. It's not like he's like, oh, I'm going to die. These are just like, look, I'm going to try and mine a lot more than you. Stats is down at 46 probes. He has the more ultimate army, but look at his bank. He's way low on the minerals. Even though he's got a sick gas count, Stats can't really just throw away an army. Like, he cannot replace it, whereas Maru, he's kind of focusing on building his bank up a little bit more, and if he can secure 1 or 2 more expansions in the next few minutes, I think Maru will have a very good chance in the following stages. These sort of TT warp-ins are actually going to take down the planetary? Oh, wow. Man, that's insane.
Well, turns out DTs actually do a lot of damage.
Yep.
But was that worth
DTs
it?
To go down? That's like 12 DTs?
8
that's
DTs
a lot of gas.
for a planetary is not actually worth it, I would say. Like,
yeah.
DTs are expensive, man. Much more so than a planetary at this point. But
in the short term, it will delay. No, it won't delay Maru's mining because he's just landed one of his 12 other command centers that was just sitting around. So he's totally fine. Yeah, he doesn't care at all. Stats
is really going to have to get his mineral bank back up a little bit. And again, I want to see a little bit more usage of oracles here. Like the Ravens came out of kind of nowhere, and he didn't realize that. If you are going to move anywhere with this super expensive, oh my god.
Oh, that is crazy. No, he doesn't know where it is. Oh, okay, he does end up revealing it.
Okay.
Yeah, something you got to remember.
It's like, well, that would be a funny way to end this game, but
some people actually haven't played a lot with the new Disruptor, so they don't realize it won't activate on cloaked units. It'll only activate if you can see the unit that the ball passes through, so he might have actually been going for it that way.
Still throwing those nukes down left and right. But yeah, I mean, he needs to see the Ravens coming. He needs to utilize High Templars to zone them out. Because if that happens one more time, the mass anti-armor, he's just going to lose the game. It's just too expensive.
Of course, nukes spell, which is very hard to land. It's much more about forcing a reaction, forcing your opponent to move around, creating threat and danger, and very occasionally do we see one actually land in a crucial spot, ending the game. Of course, that red dot visible there to Stats, and he's actually going to leapfrog these nukes forward into that gold base. Stats trying to rotate around. He wants to punish this army, but Maru, I think he's going to realize the threat he's under, and he's just going to start to escape here.
Oh no! A bunch of missiles coming out right there.
Oh my lord!
Man.
So many carriers going down once again. Maru using these Ravens to great effect. He's still got 13 of them alive as well. Funnily enough, he has nothing to just kill Nexi. Except nukes and ghosts. He's got nothing that actually attacks ground.
He's got 21 Vikings, my friend. You can land those. I don't know if you know about this, but yeah.
Yeah. Have fun getting bathed in storms the moment, the moment Stats walks up there with his High Templar, though. Hey, this is actually insane right now. Maru's bank still looking so healthy, and he's picking away at Stats. Stats does land a nice zoning storm there to push back the Liberators. Maru can't get over Eager. I think he's going to go for it. He's got so many Liberators there. Their splash damage is massive. The Disruptor's zoning out the Ghosts. Stats is on the run right now. He is so afraid of this force. Anti-armor's landing on everything. Another wave of them are going to go down.
Ooh, some panicked moves here by Stats a few times, just spamming his spells everywhere, trying to get anything done. All of his carriers in the deep orange.
Oh, one storm lands on the Vikings and Ravens. They take epic damage. They are getting very low. Maru, is this an overcommitment? I don't think so. I think he's just done it. He's taken out the Colossi, every single air unit, and even landing a few missiles on the Stalkers for good measure.
I mean, you definitely could be right about this. Like, it seems like Maru has definitely taken a strong, okay, Disruptor's killing Vikings. We've seen everything. But he's taken an advantage here, but if you do something like switch back into ground here, we see these Stalkers.
Yep.
They're gaining some value, like while he's making carriers again, so.
I love this, though. BC's adding in some Marauders and Marines. He's like, look, we need just something beefy on the ground, something cheap, something generic. And I think the only, I mean, Stats is mining out. Maru's mining out of a lot of their bases, but Maru's got the bottom left now. If he can hold that base, and I mean, if you pop out with a bunch of battle cruisers, and Stats pops out with a bunch of carriers, that's like, oh, cool. I'm just going to put a Yamato cannon on each of those.
Yeah.
That's like the most efficient trade I can possibly have. Just perfect targets for that Yamato.
You're certainly right about that. Like, there are ways to fight against mass species. Look at this. He just jumps them right into battle here. The Stalkers starting to pick off as much as they can. The Stalkers actually doing a good job a little bit there. But the BC damage output is really high.
Well, BC's apparently the fastest unit from Terran. Maru says, I can warp into your base too, buddy. The battle cruisers coming in, Marauders and Ghosts taking a lot of storms. Most of the ground army is gone for Protoss, though. It looks like Maru, Yamato Cannon finally finished, takes out the BCs. The carriers. The BCs are deep in the orange, though. Gonna regroup here. The Stalkers take a big EMP. The Liberators still doing damage from above. A nuke going down for good measure. Stats needs to defend this base, but not a single disruptor shot has landed this game.
This is kind of funny. Stats is actually so low on gateways, he's having a hard time spending his money. If he could warp in enough Stalkers, use his bank, he could kill the BCs, and they used their jump recently, so this is definitely an opportunity to clear out of this. But, oh my god. GG is called, and Maru advances from the group.
Wow. What range of play. I am not used to seeing Maru coming out with such impressive play in the end game, especially against this guy. We knew him as the late game master for so long. No one could match Stats play in the end game, but Maru just calmly, patiently gets every single unit in the playbook, uses the spells to perfect effect. Great play.
I'm really super impressed with what we just saw there from Maru. I love watching the Mass Raven play. Watching him move around, you see Stats, very good-natured about it, kind of having a laugh. That was a weird game, everybody.
All right, guys, we will be right back in just a moment with that winner's interview with Maru.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice 2018. We saw our first qualifying match where Maru was the one to move on to take down Stats. So, first of all, congratulations on qualifying, Maru. Earlier, when I spoke to you, you said that you didn't want to face Stats. So, can't help but feel like you must feel even more satisfied to qualify, taking down such a difficult opponent. How does it feel for you personally? 아까 전에 김대엽 선수를 만나기 싫다고 말을 하셨는데, 그래서 진출도 진출이지만 그 어려운 상대로 이긴 만큼 더 기분이 좋을 것 같은데 실제로 어떠세요?
일단 올라가게 돼서 정말 다행인 것 같고 그래도 대엽이 형을 이겨서 더 좋은 것 같아요. 제가 토스전에 자신이 없었는데 이렇게 올라가게 돼서 기쁜 것 같아요.
So he says, first things first, I'm so happy that I was able to qualify. That was definitely my first goal for me. And in terms of facing Stats, I really wasn't feeling confident because TVP is definitely my weakest at the moment. But because I was able to beat him, I'm very, very happy that I was able to qualify. And I want to bring up that third match because it was definitely the longest game and it turned into a really interesting game. In that late game, especially in a late game that Stats performed so well in, how were you able to take him down? 세 번째 경기가 되게 재밌었고 되게 길었는데 특히 김대엽 선수도 후반에 잘하는 선수이기도 하고 그래서 어떻게 해서 이길 수 있었나요?
일단 제가 태프전 후반에 대한 자신감이 있어가지고 그냥 후반 가면 안 진다라고 생각해서 그냥 이겼던 것 같아요.
So he says, actually, when it comes to my late game TVP, I'm really, really confident. So I just thought to myself, as long as I can take it out to the late game, I can win this game. And I think because of that, I was able to win. And now you are moving on to the group stage. There's so many amazing players here at the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. Are there any players that you're looking to avoid at all, or are you confident no matter who you face? 이제 진출을 하셨는데 혹시 피하고 싶은 선수 있나요? 아니면 누구든 자신 있나요?
그냥 팀원만 아니면 될 것 같아요.
He says simply, I just don't want to face any of my teammates and I'll be happy with that. So congratulations again. And with that, Maru will be our first player to qualify at the Intel Extreme Masters.
That's right, and what a game to conclude things there with Maru advancing on. Gentlemen, we were jumping up and down here. That was absolutely crazy. Rotterdam, I'm going to start with you because that was phenomenal.
Yeah, an absolutely bizarre final game. It's like sometimes you really feel like you love StarCraft, but you feel like you've seen most of it, and then you think it just comes down to execution.
Yeah.
And then you see a game like that, and there's just so much happening. I mean, Bigboy mentioned in the end as well, it seemed like all the disruptive shots were almost avoided. At the same time, all the nukes were avoided as well, so it became such a nice, beautiful tactical dance. And then at one point, they're like, all right, we're done dancing, let's start fighting. And it's just explosion after explosion, and you're just like looking at this game, you're like, okay, this is not what we normally see. It's just awesome stuff. I really enjoyed it.
All the Raven play, nukes being cancelled into re-nukes just to keep the ghost alive, Vikings being picked up.
The Vikings like jump in, they're like disruptor shots, they're like, oh! They just like flipped off and take off. It was so sick.
So good. Congratulations, obviously, to Maru for advancing on. Any final words on Maru before we kind of move on to other games, Maynard?
I mean, you're out there in Twitch land, you think you know TVP. You don't know TVP, man. You don't know this game. Get out of here.
That was
so amazing.
So amazing.
Oh, God.
So we do have some series to catch up on, of course. Actually, Maynard, in fact, you were watching, I think it was Bly versus DNS game number 3.
Correct. That's right. I was. DNS ended up taking him out 2-1.
Yes.
Game 3 was in Katowice. We had a little bit of it on my laptop before. But basically what happened was Bly was going for like a heavy tier 2 sort of lurker play, which he likes to do quite a bit against Protoss. But DNS managed to get up to that really scary number of disruptors. You know, I'm talking like 9, 11 disruptors that were just completely creaming the lurker force. And then it got to that point where DNS was just crushing every fight after that, because all Bly was left with was Ling, Bane, and Hydra. And then Bly, in very Bly fashion, went for a big muta switch to try and punish, making lots and lots of immortals, with which DNS just kind of locked things down back at home, made cannons. The Archons obviously are never going to be engaged ever.
Yep.
And he took damage, but he didn't take a game-ending damage. But his army could not be stopped.
There you go. DNS moves on in the lower bracket 2-1 in that match, and Bly is, unfortunately for him, eliminated. Checking in with Tasteless now. I think your series is still going on. Kerr versus Soul, but game number 2, you were jumping up and down for that as much as we were for Maru versus Stats.
There was too much going on between the game I was seeing here and then the game we have on the preview screen. We were in a base trade that it looked like Soul for sure was going to lose.
Yeah.
And managed to just barely sneak in his last command center up and try to survive that. It was fantastic.
Right.
In this game, we see it's Kerr on 2 bases. It looks like he's about to try to come in here and push Soul here on 3, although this is the
perfect timing.
Yep. Let's see if he actually can come in. He's gonna watch this, guys.
I don't think you really want to. I don't think you want to run into the tanks
Nice.
and the mines. This is going to be really tough, I think.
Yeah, I don't believe this is gonna last.
Oh my
In fact,
God.
I think if he pushes it any further, he's going to be eating so many tank shots. But hold up, we got some more warp-ins.
I know that we like to see the ending of the game, but my Protoss heart is bleeding right now. Can we?
Yeah, this looks very, very tough. He's desperately going for those tanks, but the tanks are still up. Like, they're just crushing him, these tanks. Oh, my
It seems
God.
like if Kerr doesn't actually win this fight, then this game's going to fall apart. Now, he is losing a bunch of SCVs, but he's going to dash under here. Oh, we got to
Got
chase him away.
Got him.
Yeah.
All right, hold on.
That's GG.
No, this is
GG, mate.
And then it turns around once again. Soul's going to win that fight. I'm glad we actually got those 3 lines that you drew in there, Tasteless, because I would have never known where the fight was.
Yeah, where was he going to fight, Tasteless?
That's why we add these things in here.
That's
so
right.
you guys kind of know what's going on.
Perfect
I'm talking.
stuff.
So, yeah.
Soul, 2-1. 2-1
2-1,
in that
yes.
series. So he moves on, and Kerr, unfortunately for him, is eliminated. But don't worry, because we've still got so many Koreans. That was awful. As we continue things. And obviously Sol has been having a pretty good run for himself down towards the lower bracket here. So impressive result from him, Rotterdam, to keep things going.
Absolutely. I mean, like Tayson said, he also took out Stefana, but I think it's worth mentioning that Krö had a really good showing as well. Not only did we see him in the upper bracket take out Probe, a regular in the WCS circuit, in the lower bracket he also 2-0'd Puck. I find that very impressive from a guy we don't hear much about, right? And Puck was over in Korea, and I mean, Tasteless like told the story a little bit, but that should have been a 2-0 for Krö. Like, I have no idea how he didn't win Blackpink. It was 40 supply against like 18, and he's running circles and he can't find the base, and by the time that he finally finds it, it's like mass repair 3 bunkers against a no eco Protoss. I mean, he was inches away. If he would have just seen that base a little bit faster, he's inches away from 2-0ing Soul as well. So even though he doesn't go all the way, I think a really strong showing by our Lithuanian Protoss.
I can't believe how spoiled we've been with the game so
It's
far.
ridiculous.
This is just the open bracket #1.
Yeah, day one, we've just been blessed, dude. Like, great games are just raining upon us, and we're just like basking in all of it, I think, getting hydrated.
It's fantastic stuff. We can check in with the bracket to get you guys up to date with what has gone on so far. As you can see, TY and Maru have qualified for the round of 24. That's right, Maynard. So that's a rare
Oh
sight.
my lord.
Saw one.
Oh my lord. Can
What?
you believe it? 2 Terrans?
And down towards the bottom, we have DNS, Petit Drogo, Ryung, and Sol and Stats, of course, still alive here, vying for 1 qualifying spot. So we still have at least guaranteed 3 more mainstream matches here for bracket 1. What do you make of the matches that are still left alive?
I mean, Sol's been having a good run, but I think maybe it ends here. Like, Stats is pretty scary. Yeah, I mean, Stats went all the way to Game 3 against Maru, who looks incredible at the moment. At the bottom of the bracket is Ryung against Petit Drogo, perhaps?
DNS, I mean, DNS against Drogo, that's not a set in,
No.
that match is not set in stone. It's going to be tough. Stats, obviously, I think the big favorite that's left. I mean, especially the way that he just played against Maru. But maybe in a deciding series against PvP, it can get dicey. Because maybe one of those Protosses can take out Ryung, but we can never underestimate Ryung either. So.
By the way, I think Ryung showed some of the best games we've ever seen from him at the last Intel Extreme Masters in Katowice. He had some phenomenal play.
He did. He definitely did. Yeah, I remember now you mention it.
Like Ryung and Alive, I think, with the 2 Terrans kind of blew up at
They kind of
Katowice
had real breakout plays in that tournament.
That's what Katowice does, man. It's a magical place here as we continue things for the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship. We're going to go to a break, and when we are back, we have a few more series to conclude bracket #1 for the open brackets.